Hi, and welcome to another episode of More Sports with Jamarian Moore. I'm your host, Jamarian Moore. And before we really get down to business, something kind of peculiar and just real comedic happened last night. The Warriors, they're playing the Timberwolves, and maybe like a minute into the match. It's not even too much, too far into the game. Klay Thompson, Jaden McDaniels, they get into it kind of rough, yada, yada. I think McDaniels like ripped Clay's jersey just a little bit, and so then you see Draymond Green come across from like the other end of the court. I mean, grabs Rudy Gobert. He ain't even really in the scuffle. He's trying to break it up, and just put him in a chokehold. And I mean, like not nothing like. I mean, he's really got him in a chokehold. And you got Cat and Anthony Edwards like behind him, like trying to get him off, and then Cat tried to put him in a chokehold, but I don't know. It's not something you really see every day. But then also at the same time too, I mean, what do you expect? From Draymond Green, he's. I feel like he's always been kind of, when it comes to like relevancy, he's always doing something that's kind of out of pocket like that. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand why how he is on the court. Like he's just very goofy. Kind of just plays like he wears black Air Forces all day, every day to every event, don't matter what it is. But that's just that's just kind of how he is, I guess. I don't know. But anywho, start talking about business though. That really made me chuckle. But NBA, the in-season tournament is upon us. It's here. If you're not too sure how the tournament works, so all the NBA teams are put into these different groups based upon how they finished the season last season. Then they get randomized into these different groups, and they'll initiate group play. So there's 6 different groups. Everybody split into it. Obviously, like West is with the West, East is with the East. And so with that, there's a total of 4 games being played by everybody, 2 at home and 2 on the road. And then from that, so the best groups, the best teams in each group, they'll be introduced into the knockout round. So there'll be 6 coming out of these, and then there's also 2 wild cards. So there'll be like the teams that finish second with like the second best, and like from the West and from the East in those groups, and then they'll be placed, and then all of this kind of leads up to obviously like the knockout rounds, which will be single elimination games, and they'll go kind of from there, and they'll have like the semis, the quarterfinals, the semis, and then obviously up into the championship that's going to take place in Las Vegas. And so, new thing that they're doing, I guess, kind of just I don't know, I guess to make basketball just more interesting in the sense of like the fans' perspective, because I mean it gets kind of tiring. They have 82 games they play a year, and obviously I mean I don't think I've tuned into every single game that's been available to watch, just because I mean that's a lot of games. They play every other day. It's what it seems like. So I feel like this tournament will kind of like just I guess provide a little bit more of a cooler aspect to the NBA, in terms of them having so many games and playing for like, a fat while. So that's kind of neat. And so with that, kind of want to just get on the Spurs here a little bit. It's been tough. It's been a little tough. It's one, for the most part, we're a young team. Young team, you're really just kind of finding our way, with Wemby and everything on board and everything like that. It's still a process. It's still very young in the season. Everything, up until, I want to say hopefully up until maybe like right before Christmas ish. As long as they see more opponents and more of the competition, everything's kind of like a test, kind of like a test run. You gotta kind of see how, not just Wimmy, but, how the chemistry of the whole team is going to, perform against all these, better, more experienced, more veterans on their squad type of teams. And so Spurs are sitting, they're 3-8 right now, 0-2 in the in-season tournament play, and just on a 6-game losing streak. Like I said, these things happen. It's a young squad, young squad. I really feel like if there's anything they're kind of just lacking in, for sure, definitely like right now, it's kind of just having a solid point guard to help facilitate. At least when that starting five is on the court. They have Jeremy Sohan. He's running it right now, and I mean, he's okay, but yeah, I mean that ain't really like his shtick. You know what I mean? That ain't really like his vibe. Um, More of a dude you kind of like, would like to feed, in the mid range, yada yada. Not necessarily bringing the ball down all the time like that, and trying to run plays, uh, but the play hasn't been too bad. In some of these games, if you've seen, there's been flashes. I mean, of actually a pretty scary team. I look at players like, obviously like Wembanyama, obviously. Kalen Johnson, he's gonna do what he can to get a bucket. Jeremy Sohan too, obviously, but Devin Vassell, he's like I guess to kind of like throw it back a little bit or to flashback. He's kind of like I see him in the sense of like a Danny Green, how we used to have Danny Green, but he's got more some type of like style or some type of swag about him that he's just when he wants to shoot that shot, he's gonna shoot it, and 9 times out of 10, it's going in. And so we need to see more confidence from him shooting the rock. Wimby, playing down in the paint and just establishing his role down there, and then obviously with all that in tune, uh, setting up more plays, to have everything kind of just run by him. Because honestly, when he's on the court, it's harder for these other teams. Regardless, it's hard for them to try and do what they usually do because they're not used to having a 7 foot forward dude in the paint like there is now. So who is as athletic as he is and is able to just contribute so much, just while he's on the court. So it's an interesting look. They're still figuring out some of the kinks, and that's kind of just what it is. So I wouldn't say like, oh, panic, or I wouldn't rush into anything. It's still very early in the season. Like Thanksgiving hasn't even happened yet, so no need to panic, no need to try to say but it's looking how it's looking. So we're just gonna have to trust in Pop and kind of just see what we can do from there. But other than that, though, it's a tough. The West has always been tough. It's always been tough. But you've got like the Lakers, Jazz. They're sitting undefeated right now in their tournament play. The Nuggets too. Denver's been, defending champions. They are, Jokic is Jokic. He kind of just does everything, and in a sense too, I kind of see if later on in his career, when we could kind of at least like in like a Jokic aspect, right? Well, he's Jokic isn't able to just like shoot, get rebounds, and just be big in the paint. He's able to also to play point guard and really just run the floor and fill lanes and have people get open and yada yada. So my hope for that is that Wembanyama at least a little bit later on in his career, as he starts getting molded and getting more used to the NBA and really and just knowing how he is within it, he has that impact that Jokic has with his team. That's pretty nice. Looking at some of these others, Timberwolves are undefeated. Heading to the East, you got the Pacers, and they've got a very good squad too. Miami 2-0, and then the Nets, I guess, with the best 2-1, but the Celtics sit at 1-0. So, yeah, in-season tournament's gonna be nice. It's gonna be an interesting thing as that keeps on progressing. As basketball just keeps on progressing, it's gonna be interesting, definitely for sure. Now, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit, or not necessarily switch gears, but I want to talk a little bit of football with y'all real quick, stand on some business. Rookie C.J. Stroud. which obviously you've probably heard the name, and he's it's hard to say how his play is. Well, honestly, it's just insane. I mean, he's a rookie, which you got to remember that too, right? This is a rookie playing. I mean, he's playing like he's top five in the league right now. He's able to, put some life into this Houston Texans team. Their record's sitting at 5-4 now. I mean, this is probably the most electric I've seen this team. Well, since Deshaun Watson had his like insanity run when he was there, uh, before he left or whatever. But this past game, they had a test, playing, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and kind of just seeing how that was. And he finished off with 356 yards, 23 for 39 for passing, one touchdown and one interception. And in a game too where he's got some of his main starters out like Nico Collins, Damian Pierce. He's still able to connect with like his wide receiver like Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and Schultz making that move to Houston. I was a big fan of Schultz on the Cowboys. Honestly, huge fan of it. I thought he really showed out. And my thing too is like the the Cowboys. I like to think of them as like tight end university. I feel like any tight end will just go there, or will get drafted there or whatever, get signed, and we just know how to utilize the tight ends, at least in the sense where throwing check downs and getting 2 to 3 easy yards and on crossing routes. I mean that's really what it is. But I mean, but even then, these tight ends are able to like show like, well, I can play. Feed me the rock. It doesn't have to be too much, but just feed me 3 or 4 times and watch and see what I can do. And just from that, we've gotten stars. I mean, it's evidence. So it's kind of crazy. But getting back to him and everything. But yeah, that last game it really came down to the wire. Really, Houston's defense also like they stepped up, got a huge crucial interception from Joe Burrow, and then with C.J. Stroud was able to march down the field and kick a game-winning field goal to cap that off. So C.J. Stroud, he's really been balling out. I mean, came into it first, off the premise like, oh, he hasn't thrown an interception yet, and he was building that streak. Then it's like something new. Oh, he's doing this, he's doing that. I love the hype. I love it. C.J. Stroud, I mean, seems like a very cool dude too as well. I mean, just kind of goes out there and plays football, and you look at pre-draft and everything too, right? And one of the things I remember seeing a quote that he had, and obviously it was about like the recognition test that the quarterbacks take, which honestly I didn't even know that they even did that in the draft. And I mean, I guess it makes sense just to kind of like I guess test like your knowledge and yada yada. And so C.J. Stroud like scored probably one of the lowest I think like in the history of that test. And his quote was, "Man, I'm not a test taker. I'm a football player. So I'm gonna go out there and play football," which you love to see how that's panning out for him. That quote is looking like a very, very goated quote. So shouts to C.J. Stroud, and I will gotta say too, and I admit I think his celebration, like when he gets into the end zone, is probably one of the hardest. It's so tough, just kind of like so clean when you can hit it. But switching over a little bit, just since we're talking about the boys, let's talk about the boys. You have other people, other outlets, in a sense like this, right? Well, obviously bigger, better, whatever. Um, and the conversation has been, is Dak back or yada yada yada, prime Dak, this and that. Should he be in this conversation, yada yada yada. And I mean, I guess really what it boils down to is, I mean, you can say what you want to, say about Dak or whatever, but at least, ever since the 49ers game, which, I mean, that game humbled everybody. I feel like, and even the 49ers, they had after that game, they came off, had a few injuries, but even then now they're making like a resurgence. But um, ever since then, Dak's been playing lights out. He's been playing good. I mean, he's been playing how we expect him to play. And one thing that's never really sat right with me is, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I know a lot of Cowboys fans that are obviously like fans of the team, hate the quarterback. Like it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like how are you gonna put so much like faith and trust into the team, yet you're gonna hate the quarterback and demand, if he threw like a bad ball or maybe one interception, yada yada. Y'all are demanding him to get benched, trying out all these other options that we have, but then it's like, man, like they're not gonna be as efficient as our starter's gonna be. So there's just it's never really made no sense to me. At the end of the day, it's kind of just if this is who we got at the helm, we got to ride with this, till the wheels fall off. And I really, and Dak's been Dak. Dak is Dak. I've always liked Dak, and he's that guy. He's that guy. 404 passing yards, 5 total touchdowns, 1 interception, and 138.3 passer rating. I mean, he was almost perfect against against the Giants, and you can say yada yada yada. It's the Giants, yada yada. Regardless, I mean, putting up numbers like this, I mean, it's got to be talked about. There's no way anybody can ignore this. And I would like to say too that at least when it comes to that, that conversation, not necessarily MVP or anything like that, but at least when it comes to like in the sense of top 3, top 5, yada yada yada, all these lists, I feel like Dak definitely deserves to be in that. He definitely deserves to be talked about in that, and that's just what it is. I mean, if you've seen how he plays and what it kind of falls back to, right, is after his ankle injury, uh, I feel like a lot of his play was kind of centered on the fact that, look, you're our guy. We don't want you to get hurt, and we don't want that possibility to happen again or whatever. So, they tried to contain him, just to throw strictly from the pocket. You get out of the pocket. I mean, throw that away. Don't ever, don't try to extend the play and make plays like this. Well, the thing about that is Dak in college was known for getting out of the pocket and making plays on the run. And I mean, prior to that injury, we've seen Dak make some of his best plays on the run. And so, I think uh, just after that, there comes that hesitation of like, oh, can I really do this? And if I do this, like, I mean, what's the risk of it happening again, or I get sidelined with another injury, yada yada. A lot of hesitation, and I guess that's the thing, right? But also at the same time too, it's football. Injuries are part of the game, and that kind of just happens. But now we're seeing him, break out of that mindset, and I mean, he's making plays. He's making plays out of the pocket again, and it's looking great. It's looking great. It's moving the ball. It's moving the chains. We're getting more into the red zone. I mean, we're hitting everybody. Brandon Cooks, he was involved a lot in this game. CeeDee Lamb, there was Richard Sherman had said something about CD not even being like a wide receiver one or something. Uh, CD went on Twitter, just said LOL. And I mean, just from that, I mean, he's first player in NFL history with 3 straight games, 10 plus catches, and 150 plus yards receiving. So uh, he finished this game with 151 yards, 11 receptions, and 2 total touchdowns, one rushing and one through the air. Um, CeeDee Lamb, CeeDee Lamb. We've been knew who he was, how he operates. I mean, how he works. Uh, Crazy to say that he ain't at least top 5 wide receivers in the league. Obviously, like you've got all these other boys performing like crazy, but like it's just there's no debating that. He's definitely, when you feed him this many receptions, he's gonna get this many yards minimum, and he's gonna produce at least you know, 1 to 3 or maybe even 4 touchdowns. We never know. That game might be coming up. It might not be, but you never know. But CD is that guy. Dak is that guy. The Cowboys are looking pretty hot. Um, just got to stay on that trail. The rest of the schedule is a little menacing, but I mean, it all kind of boils down to just playing comfortable and just playing how they want to play. That's really what it is. And looking at some of these other teams, just throughout the league, Las Vegas Raiders, they fired their coach, had the other coach come in, and and smart guy. Uh, they've got Devontae Adams on their team. You got a receiver like that, feed him. I mean, you got to feed him. There's no reason why you don't. And so, feed, and that's always been. I mean, that's kind of what he was saying too in a post game interview. He was saying that I mean, we've got one of the best receivers in the league. Why aren't we feeding him? So that's kind of just been the gist with that. Detroit's looking like a scary team, kind of moving forward. Honestly, they've really shaped up, and it's been insane. And they're using you have Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, dominant backfield, receivers looking great. Amon Ra, I mean, he's going crazy. Sam Laporta, I mean, having I think a historical year too, if I'm correct on that. But just playing lights out. And so with in this week 10, as we're getting a little closer towards playoff pictures and everything like that, 6 games ended in game-winning field goals, which is insane. But it's crazy how that kind of works out. But switching gears just a little bit more, kind of like talking just on fantasy. Some quick little fantasy ads for you. Keaton Mitchell and Devin Singletary, both running backs. Keaton Mitchell for the Ravens, Devin Singletary for the Texans. More than likely, they're not going to be. I don't think they're rostered in most leagues. I want to say maybe like they're probably 20-30%. So please get on that. There's going to be a whole lot more workload for Keaton Mitchell and Devin Singletary moving forward as well. Noah Brown with Nico Collins being out is a considerable pickup. He's going to be huge. I mean, I'm pretty sure he finished the game with over 150-something yards rushing. He's going to get a lot of targets, and he'll get a lot of yards. So he's definitely a nice pickup. Quentin Johnston, wide receiver for the Chargers. He's definitely, I would say, in that high-volume passing offense, he's going to be the wide receiver too. He'd be a nice pickup as well if you just need wide receiver to throw in there real quick, or if you need to make a play. Ty Chandler, running back for the Vikings. Madison went down with a concussion. He's still listed as questionable, so no validity or no for sureness that he's going to play this Sunday. But I would smash that and definitely try to start him for sure. But some huge insights and some huge plays to try to make for in fantasy. Just either back for Detroit. I mean, honestly, they're both going to get their workloads, and I think it's going to be great. And they have a pretty nice schedule moving forward. Trey McBride with the return of Kyler Murray. I would definitely try to get Trey McBride, especially with Zach Ertz still on IR. That's going to be a huge upside for you, and it's going to help you out, at least in that position. He's going to get all the targets. He's gotten over at least 6 to 7 looks target-wise, so he's going to be a good addition for your team. Rico Dowdle, Tony Pollard has been playing a little less like himself, so Rico Dowdle has been kind of showing it out and kind of showing what he's been able to do. Josh Dobbs for Minnesota has been playing lights out, just fire under his belt. Any raw receiver from that team is going to do you justice. Devonta Smith with Dallas Goedert out. He's sure to pick up so much more targets, receptions, and yards just for your team overall. Kyler Murray, he's back. And then also with David Achane, you saw how he was before the injury. He's going to come back and hopefully produce the same thing for you. And with that, thanks for letting me be on and talk with y'all. I will see y'all next week.